One night, forever wife. A stranger kissed me and begged me to be her fake boyfriend for one night. That one night changed my entire life forever. A woman I'd never met kissed me in a bar and begged me to be her fake boyfriend. Now she's my wife. I was in a downtown pub on a Saturday evening, keeping to myself and enjoying a dark ale. Suddenly, a woman I didn't recognize approached my table. She put her hands on my cheeks and kissed me. It wasn't a quick peck. It was a firm, 3-second kiss that tasted of gin and panic. She pulled away, her hands gripping my shoulders, and her eyes locked onto mine. "I am so incredibly sorry," she breathed. "Please, I just need you to go with it." Before I could even form a question, she spun around and beamed at an older couple who had just approached. "Mom, Dad, this is him. This is Liam, the man I've been telling you about." Her mother, a woman in a sharp pantsuit, scanned me from head to toe as if appraising a piece of property. Her father was tall and quiet, with an intense gaze that suggested he was preparing a full-scale interrogation. I knew I should have spoken up. I should have explained this was a misunderstanding, that I had never seen his daughter before in my life, that I was just a guy ambushed by a kiss at a pub. Instead, a voice that sounded like mine said, "It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Clara has told me so much." The woman's grip on my shoulder tightened, a clear signal of relief. Her mother's face remained a mask of polite skepticism. "That's funny. She hasn't mentioned a thing about you. Not a name, not a job, nothing at all." "That's because I wanted it to be a surprise." The woman, Clara apparently, interjected smoothly. "I knew you were coming to town this weekend, and I wanted you to meet him in person, not just hear stories." Her father folded his arms. "And you do what, Liam?" I glanced at Clara. Her eyes were wide with a mix of terror and a desperate plea. We had zero backstory for this imaginary relationship, and I was on the stage without a script. What was I supposed to be? "I'm an architect," I said, grabbing the first profession that felt plausible. "Mostly commercial projects." That part was true, at least. Clara seemed to exhale just a little. "How did you two meet?" Her father pressed on. Clara jumped in before I could invent something disastrous. "At a park cleanup event about 4 months ago. I tripped over a root and almost fell into a pile of trash bags, but he caught me. I was so embarrassed." She looked at me, cueing my line. "I told her it was the most graceful fall I'd ever seen." I continued, finding my rhythm. "I got her number before she could run away." Her mother's expression thawed by a fraction of a degree, which I counted as a victory. Her father, however, still looked unconvinced. 4 months, he stated. "That's not a long time." "It's long enough to know when someone is extraordinary," I replied, and Clara squeezed my shoulder again. We were building a relationship out of thin air, and somehow we weren't crashing and burning. Her mother glanced at her watch. "We have a dinner reservation at 8. I trust you'll be joining us, Liam." My half-finished ale sat on the table. My original plan was to finish it, head home, and maybe sketch for a while. Now I was evidently having dinner with a family of strangers, pretending to be in a relationship with a woman whose last name I didn't even know. "I would be delighted," I said. Clara finally let go of my shoulder, only to take my hand, her fingers weaving through mine as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Her palm was warm and trembling slightly. We followed her parents out of the pub. The moment we were out of their earshot, she leaned in close. "Thank you," she whispered urgently. "I will explain everything, I swear. And I'm Clara, by the way. But you know that, because I just invented you in front of my own parents." She let out a choked, frantic laugh. "I'm so sorry. I just panicked. They arrived 2 days early, I wasn't ready, and they wouldn't stop asking about the boyfriend I don't have. So your solution was to grab a random dude." "You were the closest person who looked like he wouldn't start a scene," she retorted. I had to make a quick decision. "Looks like he wouldn't start a scene," I repeated. "I'll add that to my resume." She squeezed my hand. "I owe you big time. Dinner is my treat. And after this evening, you never have to lay eyes on me again." We arrived at a fancy French bistro a few blocks away. The hostess led us to a corner table, and I found myself seated opposite Clara's parents, mentally scrambling to recall the details of our brand-new fake history. 4 months, park cleanup. Her name is Clara, my name is Liam, which is my actual name. A small mercy. The waiter arrived. Clara's father ordered a whiskey, her mother a Chardonnay. Clara ordered a deep red wine and looked as though she wanted to drain the bottle in one go. I ordered another ale, trying to project an aura of calm I did not feel. "So, Liam," Clara's mother began as the waiter departed, "tell us about your background. Where are you from?" "Upstate New York, a small town near the mountains. I came to the city for grad school and just never left." All true. Sticking to the truth where possible made the deception feel more manageable. "And what about your family?" "My parents are still upstate. I have an older brother, he's a history professor." Also true. Was this the easiest lie I'd ever told? "Do you get to see them much?" her father inquired. "A few times a year. We talk on the phone every Sunday, though." Clara watched me with an unreadable expression. It was partly gratitude, but also a deep curiosity, as if she were genuinely learning about the man she was supposed to be in love with. "And what are your intentions with our daughter?" her father asked, his voice sharp and direct. Clara sputtered on her water. "Dad, we've been seeing each other for 4 months. Can we skip the third degree?" "I think it's a perfectly reasonable question," her mother countered. "You've been so cagey about this relationship. We're just trying to get a sense of the situation." I could feel the tension radiating from Clara beside me. This was it. This was my chance to escape, to make an excuse and end the charade. But instead, I reached under the table and found her hand, just as she had grabbed mine. "My intentions are to see her happy," I said, my voice steady. "That's my only focus." Clara's fingers tightened around mine. Her father observed me for a long, silent moment before giving a single curt nod. A good answer. The waiter returned, breaking the tension. The conversation drifted to safer subjects. Her mother talked about their travel plans. Her father asked more about my work as an architect, and I found a way to describe zoning regulations that made them sound almost exciting. Clara was a master improviser. She would chime in with little details suggesting a shared history. She referenced a documentary we had supposedly watched last week. She brought up a tapas bar we'd supposedly tried that had amazing food but terrible acoustics. She was weaving an entire world for us out of thin air, and I just followed her lead, adding plausible details that felt authentic. By the time our main courses were served, I almost believed it myself. Her parents were visibly more at ease. Her mother even laughed when Clara told a fabricated story about me trying to assemble a piece of furniture and ending up with a pile of spare parts. "He's much better at designing buildings than following instructions," Clara said, patting my hand on the table. "Everyone has their talents," I said. Her father actually chuckled. Then, halfway through the meal, Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. "Excuse me," she said, her voice tight. "I have to get this." She stood and walked quickly toward the front of the restaurant. Her mother watched her go, a frown line appearing between her brows. "Is everything okay?" "I'm sure it's nothing," I said, though I had no idea. I was completely in the dark. Her father leaned in. "Liam, can I be frank with you?" "Of course. Clara, she's had a rough couple of years. The end of her last relationship was very difficult for her. We worry. She doesn't always make the most stable choices." I just nodded, not knowing what to say. I knew nothing about her past or her bad choices. "But tonight," her mother added, "seeing her with you, she seems happier, more grounded. I don't know what it is you're doing, but please keep doing it." The sincerity of their words hit me like a physical weight. They loved their daughter so much they were pinning their hopes on me. A complete stranger participating in her lie. Clara came back to the table a few minutes later, her face a carefully constructed mask of neutrality. "Everything all right?" I asked softly. "Fine. Just a work thing." But her hand was visibly shaking as she reached for her wine. Something in that call had deeply unsettled her. After dinner, her parents announced they were tired and heading back to their hotel. Clara's mother gave her a hug, then shocked me by giving me one too. "It was so lovely to meet you, Liam. I'm so glad our Clara has found someone who makes her smile." Her father gave my hand a firm, meaningful shake. "Take care of her." "I will." They left, and just like that, the show was over. We were two strangers alone on a busy sidewalk. "I cannot believe that worked," Clara said. her voice filled with disbelief. She was still holding my hand. I wasn't sure if she realized it. Your parents are intense. That's the polite word for it. I'm sorry I put you through that. So why did you? I asked. Why the need for a fake boyfriend? What's so terrible about just telling them the truth? She finally let go of my hand and hugged her arms around herself. The truth is complicated. I broke up with my actual long-term boyfriend 3 months ago, but I never told them. They adored him. They were convinced we were going to get married. When they called to say they were visiting, I panicked and told them we were still together just to avoid the conversation. So you invented a new boyfriend to cover for the old one. When I said it out loud, how crazy did it sound? It sounds completely insane, I know, she said, a genuine, tired laugh escaping her. But they were so excited about the visit, and I couldn't bear the thought of disappointing them. Again. Again? I prompted gently. She sighed, looking down the street. I dropped out of my PhD program 2 years ago. They were crushed. Then I left a stable marketing job to become a freelance journalist, which they saw as a massive step down. And then the one boyfriend they actually approved of broke up with me because I wasn't settling down fast enough. So, yes. I have a history of letting them down. Sounds more like you have a history of choosing your own path, I offered. She looked up at me, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. That's a much nicer way of seeing it. We stood in silence for a beat, the city's sounds washing around us. Who called you during dinner? I asked. She hesitated. My ex. The one my parents still think I'm with. What did he want? To let me know he just got engaged. To a woman he met 2 months ago. He wanted me to hear it from him first before it hit social media. The pieces all clicked into place. So he dumps you, and 2 months later he's engaged to someone else. Apparently she's a partner at a law firm. Very successful. Very parent-approved. Her voice trembled on the last words. I'm sorry, I said. That's terrible timing. Timing has never really been my forte. She pulled out her phone. Look, I should let you get back to your life. You have gone above and beyond the call of duty for a total stranger. Thank you, she said, her voice full of sincerity. For tonight, for playing along with my ridiculous scheme, for being a shockingly believable fake boyfriend. You're welcome. And for the record, you're a very convincing fake girlfriend. She smiled, a real, unguarded smile this time. Can I at least buy you a proper drink? As a thank you for being kidnapped from your quiet evening, I should have said no. I should have gone home. The favor was complete. We could part ways, and this would just be a crazy story I'd tell my friends one day. Sure, I found myself saying. We walked back to the very pub where it all began and found 2 empty stools at the bar. Clara ordered her gin and tonic. I got my ale. So, I began, tell me about the real Clara, the one who isn't fabricating relationships for her parents. She took a long sip of her drink. The real Clara is a bit of a mess. She's 29, lives in a tiny apartment with a dog that's too big for it, and writes articles about things she finds interesting, hoping someone else does too. She has a deep-seated fear of failure and a tendency to overthink everything. Sounds refreshingly human to me. What about the real Liam? Who's he when he's not an emergency boyfriend for hire? I considered it. The real Liam is 31, spends most of his time designing buildings he hopes will still be standing in 100 years, and hasn't been on a proper date in almost a year because he finds small talk excruciating. A year? How is that possible? I'm very good at being on my own. That just sounds lonely. It's efficient, I countered. She laughed. You're strange. You ambushed a man in a pub and forced him to meet your family. I think you lose the right to call anyone else strange. We talked for another hour. A real conversation this time. She told me about the ex-fiancé, the finance bro who thought her career was a hobby. I told her about my last relationship, which ended because my work-life balance was non-existent. She showed me an article she was proud of on her phone. I showed her a 3D model of a library I was designing. Around midnight, she sighed. I should probably get going. I have a deadline tomorrow. Yeah, me too. I should go. Neither of us made a move to leave. This was fun, she said softly. The dinner was a nightmare, but this was nice. We should do it again, I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. Without your parents present. She looked at me, her head tilted. Are you asking me on a real date, Liam? Maybe. Is that too weird considering the circumstances? It's incredibly weird, she said, a grin spreading across her face. Which makes it kind of perfect. She held out her phone. Give me your number. Your real one this time. I gave it to her and she sent a text right away. It read, "Hello from your fake girlfriend." I saved her contact and replied, "Hello from the fake boyfriend who'd like to be the real one." She read my text and her smile widened. That's bold. I just spent an evening lying to your parents for you. I figure we can skip the small talk. We left the pub together. She gave me a hug on the sidewalk, and it felt entirely different from the desperate grab earlier. It was warmer, more genuine. Text me, she said. I will. I watched her walk away, a smile plastered on my face. I'd come out for a quiet drink alone and was leaving with a date and a story that nobody would ever believe. I texted her as soon as I got home. Made it back. No sign of your parents tailing me? She replied instantly. They liked you. My mom just texted me, she said. He seems like a good influence. Should I be concerned that I charmed your very intense mother? Very. She's probably already picking out China patterns. I laughed out loud in my quiet apartment. We kept texting for another hour before we finally said goodnight. The next morning, I woke to a text from her. Coffee? I swear I won't make you pretend to be my relative this time. We met at a cafe near the park where our fictional selves had supposedly first met. She looked different in the daylight, more relaxed in jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair pulled back. More real. Hey, fake boyfriend, she greeted me. Hey, fake girlfriend. We got our coffees and sat down. So how does this work exactly? She asked. Do we keep up the act for your parents, or do we actually give this a shot? My vote is we try for real, I said. With the mutual understanding that we're both slightly dysfunctional people who are bad at dating. That is the most honest first date proposal I've ever received. She raised her coffee cup. To being dysfunctional together. I clinked my cup against hers. To having the weirdest how we met story of all time. We talked for 3 hours. We found out we'd lived in the same neighborhood for a year and never crossed paths. We both had a dog. We both thought cilantro tasted like soap. By the time we left, she took my hand as we walked, and it felt completely natural. Same time next week? She asked. How about dinner Friday? Eager, aren't we? I've already met the parents. We're past the point of playing it cool, she laughed. Okay, Friday it is. We had dinner that Friday and Saturday. By the end of the first week, we had seen each other 4 times. It was moving fast, probably way too fast for 2 people who claimed to be bad at relationships. But there was something about starting, our entire connection with a massive lie that made being honest feel refreshingly easy. We didn't have to play games. We'd already done the pretending. About a month in, Clara's mom called while we were making dinner at my place. Clara put the phone on speaker. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. Just calling to check in. How are things going with Liam? Clara looked at me, her eyes wide. We had talked about this moment, about whether we should ever tell them the truth. Things are great, Mom. Really great. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Your father and I just thought he was so lovely, so stable. He is, Clara said, glancing at me as I nearly dropped an onion. So when do we get to see you 2 again? Clara took a deep breath. Actually, Mom, there's something I have to tell you. I walked over and took her free hand. The night you met Liam, it wasn't exactly how I said it was. There was a long pause on the other end. What do you mean? We hadn't been dating for 4 months. We had just met. That night, I panicked when you showed up early and I grabbed him at the bar and asked him to pretend. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. You lied to us, Clara. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do. So this man, Liam, he's not even your boyfriend? Clara looked right at me. He wasn't then, but he is now. We started dating for real after that night. I don't understand. Why on earth would you do something like that? Tears welled in Clara's eyes. Because I was ashamed. I knew you'd be disappointed about me and Marcus breaking up. I feel like I'm always letting you down." Her mother sighed, a heavy, tired sound. "Clara, we have never thought you were a failure. You hated when I left my PhD. You hated when I went freelance. We worried about your stability. That's not the same as being disappointed in you." She paused. "But this lying to us, bringing a complete stranger into our lives, that is a different level of deception." "I know. I'm sorry." "Is he there? Is Liam there now?" "Yes, I'm here," I said. "Can I say something?" "Go ahead." I squeezed Clara's hand. What she did was impulsive, I'll grant you that. But her reason for doing it came from a place of love. She didn't want to hurt you. And for what it's worth, I'm incredibly glad she did it, because I never would have met this amazing woman otherwise. Another long pause. Then, her mother's voice, softer now. "So you're really together now? This isn't part of the lie?" "We're really together," Clara confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. "Well," her mother said slowly, "I suppose it makes for a much better story than meeting at a park cleanup." Clara let out a watery laugh. "You're not furious?" "I'm processing. Your father is going to have opinions. But no, not furious. Just bewildered." They talked for a few more minutes. After she hung up, Clara stared at her phone. "I can't believe I did that." "How do you feel?" "Terrified. And also incredibly relieved. That's what real boyfriends are for. Backing you up during confessions." Her phone buzzed. A text from her dad. It read, "Your mother told me it was a crazy thing to do, but you get your nerve from my side of the family. Don't do it again." Clara showed me the text, a huge smile breaking across her face. That's his version of, "I forgive you." The next few months were a blur. Our relationship, born from a crazy lie, felt more real than any I'd had before. We'd skipped all the early-stage awkwardness and gone straight to deep, honest vulnerability. We'd already seen each other's panic modes. Her parents visited again 3 months later. This time there were no secrets, just a real couple, with real inside jokes and a real history. At dinner, her father looked at me and asked, "So, Liam, looking back, would you do anything differently that first night?" I thought for a second. "I probably would have ordered a second beer before agreeing to meet you. But otherwise, no. I wouldn't change a thing." "Good," he said, raising his glass. It worked out. 6 months after we met, we moved in together. My apartment was bigger and could actually accommodate her oversized dog. My parents came to help and to finally meet Clara. My mom pulled me aside while we were unpacking books. "She's a keeper, Liam. I really like her." "Me too, Mom." "So how did you two meet again? You were a little vague on the phone." "So," I told her, "the whole ridiculous, unbelievable story." She laughed until she was crying. "That is the single most absurd how we met story I have ever heard." "I know. You'll have to tell that at the wedding." "We're not engaged yet, Mom." She just gave me a knowing look. Yet. She was right, of course. I knew from the first few weeks that Clara was it. This was it. 1 year to the day after we met, I took her back to that same pub. "What are we doing here?" she asked. "Reliving the scene of the crime?" "Something like that," I said. "Except this time, I'm the one with the surprise." And right there, by the same table where I'd been sitting alone a year ago, I got down on one knee. "Clara," I began, my voice shaking slightly. "A year ago in this exact spot, you ambushed me and forced me to be your fake boyfriend. You dragged me to a terrifying dinner and made me lie to your parents. You invented a whole relationship for us." She was already tearing up. "And somehow, that one night of faking it became the realest and best thing in my life. So I'm asking, you now in the place where it all began, will you make it permanent? Will you marry me?" She was nodding and saying yes before I even finished the question. The whole bar burst into applause. She pulled me up and kissed me, a kiss that had all the urgency of that first one, but none of the panic. Just love. Planning a wedding meant retelling our story to every single vendor. So let me get this straight, our wedding planner said, trying to hold back a laugh. She just grabbed you? Pretty much, Clara confirmed. Then we figured we'd already survived meeting the parents, so we might as well actually date. The planner just shook her head. That's either the most romantic or the most certifiably insane thing I've ever heard. Why can't it be both? I asked. For our engagement photos, we went back to the bar. We recreated the moment she grabbed my face, my expression of pure shock. We sent out an announcement with that photo, captioned, "It started with a lie, but ended with a yes." At our rehearsal dinner, the speeches were all variations on the same theme. My brother told the story of my panicked phone call to him that night. He said, "I think a woman is kidnapping me to meet her parents, but I think I'm into it." I told him to run. I've never been happier that he's terrible at following advice. Clara's parents gave a joint speech. "We've learned that the path to happiness is rarely a straight line," her mother said. "Sometimes it involves deception and accosting strangers. We don't endorse it as a life strategy, but we can't argue with the result." The wedding day was surreal. As I watched Clara walk down the aisle, all I could think was that a year and a half ago, she was a stranger. Now, she was my everything. In my vows, I said, "Clara, when you kissed me in that bar, I had a choice. I could have pushed you away. I could have told your parents the truth. But some instinct told me to say yes, to take a chance on the craziest thing that had ever happened to me. Saying yes to one night of pretending led me to a lifetime of truth with you. You taught me that sometimes the best plans are the ones you never made." I had to pause, my voice thick with emotion. When it was her turn, she looked at me, her eyes shining. "Liam, I was so scared that night. Scared of being a disappointment, scared of being alone. So I did the most impulsive, reckless thing I could think of. I grabbed a stranger. But the truth is, when I looked around that bar, I saw you, and you had this kind look on your face. You looked like someone who might just say yes, and you did."